All right. Autumn Smith, welcome to the Happy Hustle podcast, my friend. I am super excited to connect.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. It's been an honor and such a pleasure just even chatting with you before we started. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. I mean, well, you are a serial entrepreneur. You're the co-founder of Paleovalley and Wildpastures and a couple other brands. You also have a background as a celebrity fitness trainer and dancer, and you actually went to the University of Montana. So we have that in common. You're from Montana, but you're a happy hustler, out of all those things through and through. And I'm really excited to dive into your story and specifically, how the happy hustlers can learn from you and your wisdom. But before we get into all that good stuff, Autumn, what is something interesting about yourself that not too many people know?
This is such a great question. And I would say, because I think it's appropriate here, I'm relatively fearless when it comes to business pursuits, but I'm deathly afraid of sharks and bears. And I grew up in Montana. I watched Grizzly Man way too many times. And camping for me, it was so stressful. We finally invested in like a camper van so that we could still do the lifestyle and just not get eaten by bears. So there it is.
I love it. I love it. That's funny. I mean, grizzly bears are no joke. Let's be honest. But I just feel like they get a bad rap too. Like they're just trying to live their life, right?
That's so true. That's so true. I think in addition to Grizzly Man, it was the fact that my brother-in-law's cousin was treed by a grizzly, and when he was living in Alaska, and they kind of like got his backpack, and so he played dead and escaped long enough to go up a tree. And fortunately, he was able to have cell phone service to call his mother, and his mother was fortunately a nurse who said, "Tie yourself with your belt to the tree. You're going to pass out because of the blood loss, but you don't want the bear to catch you." And he did, and he lived, right? So yeah, I think. Right. Grizzlies, animals, nature, like they are great, wonderful things. Just like you said, trying to live their lives. I think that story paired with watching Grizzly Man like 10 times just set me on a different direction, but I'm working through it.
I mean, to be honest, I've been squared up with a grizzly bear in the wilderness about 20-ish yards from me. And it was on his hindquarters growling, but we shot the 44 near it. We had the pepper spray ready, but at the end of the day, we got it away from us by throwing rocks at it. And, it just was just curious. I think I've actually had more terrifying encounters with moose. Being charged by moose has been, and moose actually kill more people than grizzly bears. I didn't know if people know that, but fun fact for y'all. But it is something, you just want to respect the wilderness. Yes. You want to respect the environment and the animals, or get a camper van and sleep soundly at night. Right.
Yeah. Do both, right? Do both.
Yeah. Do both. That's awesome. So one thing I'm really interested to talk about, and I will say, like, I don't say this lightly. I love your guys' products. You got the beef stick, which is 100% grass-fed beef, Neuro Effect. I got some of this stuff here if you're watching the YouTube version. We got, the superfood bar with grass-fed bone broth protein. You guys have, let me show you this. The organic super greens. I know I'm just pimping all the products out, but you guys make some really high quality, great products at Paleovalley. And, your tagline, you're a small company with a big heart, and you actually care. Talk to us a little bit about the genesis of Paleovalley and how that company started.
Yeah. So I had digestive issues essentially since I was about 10 years old. And no doctor knew what to do with me. They put me in the Irritable Bowel Syndrome category, which some people call it's BS category, because it's kind of like they ruled out pathology and they don't really know what's wrong. So they just say you have IBS. Anyway, I didn't know what to do with that. And so I just kept kind of going along. And in my teens, I developed debilitating mental health issues, depression and anxiety. And it got so bad, I got kicked out of my parents' house before I graduated high school. So if there's anyone that people thought might found a company about wellness, it was just not me. But fortunately, I still, pulled myself up and carried on and moved to LA and pursued dance and became, like you said, a celebrity fitness trainer, all while suffering in silence. But when my husband met me and really got to know me, he was like, oh, honey, like, wow, like your world, like what you project, what you put out there is just not reality. And we need to find a way to make you healthy. And you're a fitness trainer. Like you need to be not only fit, but we need to be well. And so he got on the internet. It was just found that some people back then were having some good luck changing their diet to fix their digestive symptoms, which now seems so obvious. But at the time, it was kind of a relatively novel concept. So we did it. We just cut out processed foods for 30 days and kind of followed a paleo template. And the transformation in me was so remarkable that I had to quit my job as a fitness trainer. I got all my digestive symptoms went away in 30 days that I had suffered from for over a decade. And then in the next year, there's this like anxiety and depression kind of lifted as well. And I just was like, oh my gosh, this is what I need to find out how to give away. This is what I didn't have. And so we came into products because we are busy people. We like the happy hustle. And I was still doing like world tours and not able to maintain the lifestyle because I don't want to spend 3 days, 3 meals a day in the kitchen. I know some people can do it. It's not my thing. And so we wanted to make the products available for everybody, no matter what lifestyle they have, to be able to have the tools to, choose wellness if that's what they want. And then Wild Pastures came about because my son came into this world and we learned about all the problems with our soil and the fact that we only have 60 years of topsoil left, according to certain estimates.
Yep.
And we were so burdened by the thought of our child maybe one day not being able to grow his own food, and also inspired by the stories of regenerative farmers that we work with and how they're rehabilitating, sequestering carbon and on and on. And so we wanted to find a way to make their products accessible and affordable so that so that it wasn't an elitist thing. It wasn't something people in only one area of the country could access, that anyone could choose to feed their family in the way they want to and, contribute to this cause and carbon sequestration. And so that was Wild Pastures. And the burger company is just because we need good burgers in Colorado and we couldn't find them. And we again wanted to create another market for these amazing regenerative farmers who are literally healing the land and our people.
Yeah. Ooh, I love all that. I mean, kind of doubling back to Paleovalley and just the lesson within your story is you scratched your own itch first. And that's where I think a lot of the happy hustlers can really resonate. People are, oh, I don't know which niche to dive into, or I don't know who to serve, or I don't know what problem to solve. Well, start with you 5 years ago, and think about what you have overcome, what adversity. And just like Autumn did, she was struggling with her digestion and her diet was really, an issue at the time. And she solved that problem with Paleovalley first and foremost. And then when you solve that problem for yourself, you could then solve it for other people and you could speak directly to those individuals. And I know it hasn't been an easy road, right? Starting a company like Paleovalley, like Wild Pastures. If you had to distill like the greatest adversity that you have overcame with any of your business ventures into a short synopsis and the lesson learned from that, what would that be?
Ooh. Don't try to appeal to everyone, maybe. You're not always going to be for everyone. I think in the beginning we went too broad and we were worried about changing things to make sure that everybody was happy. And in the end, we thought, no, like you're saying, know your audience, know their struggle, know everything about their lives, and have enough integrity to stay there and to really serve that population without worrying about, appealing to everyone. So I think if I had done that, it would have been a much quicker process. And also, never compromise on your integrity, right? And it's easy for me because I was so transformed by the principles that are the foundation of our company. And so I don't want to because I've lived through it. But if you have an experience like that, or even if you don't, like come up with a very strict and precise set of values that your company stand by, and then stay there, because we have been really specific about the quality of our ingredients. That's always been our tagline, right? We're kind of the food snobs, they call us, which I have a love-hate relationship with that term. But But there have been so many times where we have had to tell our customers, I'm sorry, we're not going to compromise on the quality of this product. So it's out of stock for right now. And that makes people really angry. But in the long run, it makes people really respect us because we aren't compromising. There's integrity behind what we're doing and our customers are willing to wait. And we just have more value, right? At that point in time. So I think that would be my piece of advice.
Yeah, integrity is so crucial in business and in life, but especially when you have a product or service, having integrity, operating with integrity, not compromising your product or service, that is so huge. I hope the Happy Hustlers really take that to heart. And also just, not trying to be everything to everyone, because when you're everything to everyone, you become nothing to no one. You're not appealing, and there's just so much noise out there in the marketplace. You have to really go a mile deep and an inch wide, and I think it's imperative. So that's a really great takeaway. And there's something that I want to talk to you about specifically, because I know you have a unique perspective, and it's this idea that meat is harmful and where it actually originated, because this is a problem, I think, in the psychology of some humans right now. But we've been eating meat since the beginning of time. I mean, talk to us a little bit about your take on this idea that meat is harmful.
Yeah, and it's funny because this ties directly into what I was just saying about you have to stand for something, because when you don't, you stand for nothing, right? And so it was kind of really hard for me to push this message at first, even though I think having really high quality animal products was an essential part of my getting better. But there's such a push against it today. I mean, it is so loud that it was very scary, but I've just totally embraced it. And this message, it's because I've learned about where this message came from. And like you said, we've been eating meat for 2.6 million years. There's never really been a vegan culture. And so taking meat out of our diet and animal products is essentially an experiment. But the origins are really interesting because a lot of them have their roots in religion and ideology. There was a woman named Ellen G. White, and she's the founder of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And she had visions from God where she heard that the Garden of Eden diet, or a clean diet, didn't contain meat, right? It was fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds. And she believed that eating meat would arouse kind of passions and cause kids to masturbate. So yes. And
that's the cause all these years. Wow.
Well, I do think there's something to it because you're nourished, right? But and then one of her disciples or students, Dr. John Harvey Kellogg, actually took in her teachings and decided to create the cereal industry and the world's first meat alternative called Produce in order to give children a way to prevent them from having to eat the meat that was going to cause them to masturbate. So I think the Seventh-day Adventist Church, one of their members actually founded the American Dietetics Association. They also have a lot of influence in medical education and our nation's dietary guidelines. So you wouldn't know it, but so that is one major influence. Another one is research by, I think you've probably heard of Dr. Ansel Keys, and he had a 6-country study where it looked like the amount of fat you ate, and the countries that ate more fat had a higher risk of heart disease. The only problem is when you brought in the other data points for the 22 countries for which was available at the time, which 2 statisticians did, the association was much weaker. But the big thing is when you added and looked at the rates of disease and death from other causes, that meat actually and animal products actually seem to be protective. So, but that wasn't heard. That message wasn't as well received as this animal fat and meat are dangerous. It was more about animal fat at that time. And our nation's dietary guidelines were influenced by that research. And so it kind of just continued on this trajectory. The funny thing is, a recent 2022 analysis came out and showed that our rates of red meat consumption are down. Animal fat consumption, they're down despite this rise in non-communicable diseases. And the final influence is, there was some research around sugar being a culprit in heart disease around the same time that Dr. Ansel Keys was looking at saturated fat and dietary fat. Now, there's some research to suggest, or some historical accounts, that the sugar industry paid for research done at Harvard to kind of exonerate sugar and make it look like, to kind of make this narrative about dietary fat louder right? And so we now know that industry-funded research often presents and results in things that are beneficial for industry, right? But it wasn't really regulated at that time. And so we kind of just ran with this dietary fat is dangerous hypothesis. And today it's even becoming this meat is dangerous. And we're also worried about the environment. And those concerns are, as you might know, a little bit overblown and misrepresented. But yeah, I think it's important for me to get this message out there because it's really important. So many countries don't have really access to high quality meat. They're suffering from micronutrient deficiencies. Anemia is the #1 nutrient deficiency worldwide. And I see a lot of people, actually, our friend we were talking about, she has a girl, a little 7-year-old girl in school whose other friend said that she couldn't be in their club if she ate meat. And there's studies to show irreversible harm in kids who don't eat meat. And so, so I just think it's really important that we all understand exactly this didn't originate in sound science and it hasn't really thoroughly been tested. And so for us to believe that is the best way to go, it is an experiment. It's a novel idea that hasn't been tested. And I think it's potentially dangerous.
Yeah. Wow. You know, what it all sums up in my layman's terms is private interest and corporate greed. You know, like really that's what it comes down to. Like there's not sound science behind it, right?
Yeah, I didn't even tell you the greed part. I'm sorry. William Procter and James Gamble, their candle sales were down because of the advent of electricity, and they had all this cottonseed oil. And so they created Crisco out of this cottonseed oil because it was a great business move. But we now know that the way that it's produced, it had 50% trans fat. They made a ton of money, and they had this outlandish marketing campaign that was so successful, but it was based on no good evidence. And we now know that trans fat, which was originally in Crisco, which made Americans get rid of their lard and their animal fats, causes about 500,000 deaths worldwide, according to the World Health Organization. So it's greed. Oh my
gosh.
It's craziness.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and you know, I can only speak to my own unique experience and the science, right? But I will just tell you, my fiance went vegan for, I don't know, like a year, and she was like sick. Like she was not doing well, like losing hair, like her fatigue, low energy. Like I think people, you know, I enjoyed the documentary Game Changers. And, you know, I think like, okay, you guys put it together, a sound argument. However, I think you out there have to really just use your own noggin on this one. Use your own common sense, right? And like make the best decision for you and your family. I mean, obviously the source of the meats and the source of your food and your vegetables and proteins and all the different carbohydrates that everything you put in your body matters. The source is important, but you have to just look at like the science and going back, you know, what you said, millions of years, like this is what we ate. It was a paleo diet, you know? And I think I love that you have all the science to back it up. And I just think people really, you know, I don't like to force my ideology on anyone. That's not you know, what I'm all about. I rather be a reporter, what's working for me. And I like to eat, you know, whole organic fruits and vegetables and meats. And that's basically what I eat. I keep out the processed crap, the GMOs, the sugars as much as possible. You know, I'll sneak in a pastry from here and there, but, you know, that's my guilty pleasure. But, you know, we all have a little like, you know, a guilty pleasure, but at the end of the day, it's like food is thy medicine, right?
Yeah. And I would never want to tell anybody what to do. Right. I want people to eat exactly what makes them happy. And I have people who have been vegan and have done okay from what I could tell. But like you said, 60% of our diet's coming from processed foods. And there's this big plant-based push, right? Plant-based. But a lot of these are processed foods. And so my only hope is that we look at, okay, is eating processed foods, even if they're plant-based, a better idea than eating whole foods and high-quality animal products? That's a decision that you get to make for yourself. But I think it's at least worth pushing back on a little bit, just because most of these products are plant-based, but also processed. But again, I don't want to tell anyone what to do. And I hope you just experiment, like you said, and find exactly what works for you. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. And it really is, determining what's best for you. One thing that I do want to discuss deeper is regenerative agriculture. This is something I'm very passionate about. I watched Kiss the Ground. I know, I'm sure you did, and it's a documentary on Netflix. Highly recommend. I think, do you know people involved in that movie as well, Autumn?
Yeah, I mean, Ryland, yes. And I actually did their program, their soil advocate training program. And so I do. And then randomly, as when I was a celebrity fitness trainer, I got to work with Giselle for a minute. And I saw her. That was really cool. It's just really cool to see so many different people involved in such a big idea. So yes, I do know the Kiss the Ground team, some of them anyway. And I love that organization. I love the documentary.
Yeah. And well, here's the thing, like people, and I'm experiencing this right now with my dad's ranch out here in Montana. Like there's just the old way to do things that these ranchers and farmers don't know another way. I'm arguing with my dad and the guy who leases the ranch to run, crop and cattle. He wants to put Roundup all over it, and it's like, there's better ways. There's better ways than spraying these pesticides and these herbicides on our crops, our lands, in our soils that get into our water sources. Talk to us a little bit about that better way, that regenerative agriculture approach.
Yeah, I love that you said that. And I have so many friends in Montana who are experiencing the same thing. Some of them are ready to transition, but the powers that be or the people who are owning the land are a little bit more hesitant. But regenerative agriculture is essentially a movement away from chemical agriculture and a movement towards an agriculture that prioritizes biology, right? So we've been living in this extractive relationship with the land, taking out more than we're putting back, and not even really noticing what our practices are doing to the microbes in the soil, which is essentially absolutely imperative for healthy plants, healthy animals, healthy humans, healthy ecosystem, healthy water holding capacity. And so what they're doing is they're using a set of principles like least disturbance, because we now know tilling is very dangerous. It allows water to evaporate. We lose moisture, and also it's letting carbon go into the air. We're also maximizing photosynthesis because these plants are essentially taking carbon out of the air and making carbohydrates that then feed this life in the soil. And then when the life in the soil is healthy, it takes the rocks and it creates plant soluble nutrients that the plants then take and then have in them so that humans can get them. So they're kind of like taxis. And it also, again, sequestering carbon. And when you have healthy microorganisms, you can have better water holding capacity and better biodiversity. And then we integrate animals, right? You move them away and around in a very managed system, and they're actually pulling at the grass, which stimulates the grass, the growth of the roots and the sequestration of carbon. They're fertilizing it. They're not overgrazing it. And so ruminants are actually very, very beneficial to the land when they're used in a very specific way, and when they're not allowed to just kind of eat wherever they want and continuously graze. And then we're just focusing on biodiversity and taking context into consideration. So when you do all of these things, you see a number of ecological outcomes that are beneficial. Like we've talked about, water holding capacity is better, biodiversity is better in the soil, in the plants, in the animals. We're sequestering carbon, we're building topsoil, and just making sure that we have a really healthy source of soil for a nutrient-dense food supply. Our antibiotics are coming from the soil. Again, some of our energy is coming from the soil. Like if we are depleting our soil, which we are, I think there's estimates that 70% of our soil is degraded today, then we are in for a very rude awakening, because I think most of us don't yet understand how incredibly important it is. But essentially, regenerative agriculture doesn't invite us to maintain the status quo, which is what I think a lot of sustainable and sometimes even organic agriculture will do, is like, hey, let's just try not to make things worse. Regenerative agriculture asks us to regenerate or bring things back to a higher or more worthy state, because that's essentially where we need to go to kind of overturn all of the damage that we've been doing in our current methods.
Wow. So well said. And, really, I love the term regenerative agriculture. I was my brother and I, we started a company called Sustainable Breakthroughs, right? And right now we have a company called Eco Breakthroughs that is fighting the plastic pollution epidemic and climate change. And we're big eco warriors in that space. Nice. But there was one person who challenged us. He was big into regenerative agriculture and regenerative building. And he said, regenerative is the word that you truly need to be utilizing, not sustainable. Right. And I was like, you're right, because sustainability is, just like keeping it status quo and hoping things don't get worse. But when you are utilizing regenerative practices, that's where the magic happens. That's where things actually increase and improve. And my fiance and I, we are planning on starting our own regenerative ranch with, a full setup, with all the animals and the soil and the plants. And that's like something we've been drawing up plans for. Oh. And it's just something that you can do on a micro scale right now. Listening, you can regenerate your backyard. You can, make small choices that can make a massive impact over time. If we collectively all are, utilizing regenerative practices, I think that's the key here. It's just to be a part of the solution, not the problem. If you had to give like a couple micro steps, like maybe some action items for the happy hustlers in terms of utilizing regenerative practices, what would be a couple of those, action tasks?
Oh, this is a great question. And I wish I had this book right now. So there's a book called Project Regeneration. Have you heard of that? It's Paul Hawken. And
sounds familiar.
Yeah, he originally created the most comprehensive plan for drawdown. And but what he's done now is focusing more on the regeneration element because it is far more hopeful. And I guess there was new estimates that if we stop our rate of emissions currently, we will be able to get back to a point where we can balance the ecosystem and the environment. So my tips when it comes to your food, I think that's kind of where I live. And that's what gets me really excited is being local as often as possible, right? Because if we're bringing fruits and vegetables from, 1,000 miles away, that is there's an environmental cost to that without a doubt. Also just increasing the diversity of our diet, right? I think most of us are eating like 12 different things and 5 different animal products. And most of it's like wheat, corn, and rice. So like 3 crops, right? And then often that is monocrop agriculture. And so if we can instead like grow our own food, even in our backyards, regenerate our own soil, take care of our own lawns, or even support someone with a CSA program or somebody in your neighborhood and just try new things, right? Just diversifying. And the last thing would be, obviously our company Wild Pastures. If you are in an area where there are farmers, ranchers raising things in a regenerative way, support them. Because I've talked to so many of the ranchers and farmers, and they don't want to market themselves. Some of them do, but they want to spend their time regenerating the land. And so if we can create a demand, and you can tell them by being interested in their products and supporting their products, we're going to create that demand. But Wild Pastures too is a program of ours that you can order regeneratively raised meat from anywhere in the country, and we keep it as local as possible. Can't always be local, but. And also, you like buying secondhand clothes, right? Walking more. I mean, there's just so many things that we can do on a daily basis, creating a compost pile on a daily basis. Those are just a few of the things that I focus on.
Ah, so good. I mean, eat local, as often as possible, increase the diversity in your diet, grow your own food. Order from Wild Pastures, order from Paleovalley, all the good stuff. We do have a discount link for all the happy hustlers. We'll shamelessly plug it. You got to go to the show notes because it's a little lengthy, but you do get a discount if you click the link to Paleovalley products. And I don't know if we have one for Wild Pastures, but maybe we could set that up. Code happy. We'll put it out there, and maybe you guys can get the hookup, because this is how you can actually make a positive impact on the planet and your own well-being, is by being a conscious consumer, voting with your dollar, supporting companies, local companies and companies that are doing the right thing, and B corporations that are transparent. It's just, this is the future. If you're not making these conscious choices every day with your dollar, then unfortunately you're just a part of the problem. So I really urge everyone to, take stock in and currently where you're at, where you're getting your food from. Are you going to Walmart? Okay. Like, give yourself a little grace, sure, but now make some other choices. Right. And, be better. Right.
One thing I want to add is a lot of the percentage of the dollar that goes to the farmers and ranchers has gone dramatically down, right? As we've had this monetized system of agriculture. And so, don't beat yourself up if you're buying things at Walmart, right? But just think about what are the steps and who is being affected by these purchases, not even only your family, but just like the workers, the farmers, the people who are doing the hard work. We want the money, a good percentage of that dollar to go back to them. And in our current system, it doesn't. So.
Yeah. I need to hook you up with my friend, Derek from Primal King. He has called Crosso Meats. He's a local rancher, but he would be a really great guy to add to your wild pastures. He's out of Idaho. But it's just people like that you want to support, like family ranchers, family, farmers. I mean, we have our own garden out here in Montana, and I'll tell you what, it's a lot of work. Like, like you have no idea if you have never made your own garden, like those people put in work and to bring you really good food, fresh vegetables. Like it's not easy. And it's one of those things that, like, by making choices with your dollar, you support them. So really great topics there. And Autumn, I just so appreciate you. Where can people go to find out more about you specifically, and learn kind of more about your story, and give us some links there?
Yeah. If you want to, you can go to paleovalley.com. That's where we have all the different products. And then wildpastures.com, of course. And then it's wildpasturesburger.com for the burger place. That's only in Boulder right now, but we hope to be expanding. And then you can always reach out to me at autumn@paleovalley.com, and I answer all questions and comments and suggestions, and welcome to all feedback.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I really hope you guys open one in Bozeman. Man, that would be a great market.
I know, I'm kind of like a Grizz. I went to school in Missoula.
Okay, Missoula.
It could be Missoula or Bozeman, but I'll put in a good word for Bozeman.
I'll drive to Missoula for a burger. All right. So, Autumn, I do want to put you through some of the more traditional happy hustle questions that I like to ask my guests. And this first one is all about health. We've talked about it. You being a celebrity fitness trainer, I know health is a priority for you. I always like to ask, like, what is a happy hustle hack? Maybe, a tip, a tool, a tactic that you do that maybe is a little different that you could share with the happy hustlers regarding health.
Ooh, my favorite health hack. Oof. Your audience is mostly men, so I was going to say I always I change the way that I do things in accordance with my cycle. But I would say, yeah, right.
Well, that works. There's a lot of happy hustle females out there, so they appreciate that.
It's just like tuning in, just knowing that I can't power through everything all the time, and I should not expect that of myself. Giving myself grace. Another one that's really good for health, something that is so probably like cliche, but that really impacts me favorably, is fasting. Right? I just before I get onto these interviews, I don't eat, and my brain is on.
Me either.
It's not otherwise. And also when I overdo it, or I, don't always make the perfect dietary choices that I want to make, fasting still gives your body time to recover and kind of like rehabilitate. And you can still move the needle if you want to lose a little weight, and you don't want to change your diet by simply doing a little intermittent fasting or having a, 18-hour, 20-hour period where you're not eating. And also it makes me a lot more productive and just a lot more clear-headed. So I would say, as much as I love talking about food, not eating food is the one for at least a period of time, like for a very, specific amount of time. It has been very helpful for me.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of fasting. I typically, decrease my feeding window to about 8 hours, where I'm only eating lunch and dinner. And it definitely makes a positive impact on my performance cognitively. So yeah, great tip there. Let's talk about money. I think money is a really important topic. it's a frequency, right? It's a tool. It makes you more of who you truly are, I believe. What would you say is a happy hustle hack in regards to money? Maybe something you do to save, invest, or spend wisely that you could share with the happy hustlers.
Oh my goodness, this is good. What we do for money is we've done a lot of different things and tried many different investments. And more recently, what we're finding is nothing's for sure, right? Diversify, but invest in yourself, I guess, has been one of the things. It's like, we always want to support other companies doing great things, but at the end of the day, like, we know that we are going to have integrity with the decisions we make. We are going to work our buns off. And so while we were always kind of looking outside ourselves and outside our business for a lot of investments and things like that, now we're putting that money back in a really strategic way and just kind of investing in ourselves. And we did never take money to start our companies either. We totally bootstrapped it. I went on my last tour with, my last assignment for Tracy Anderson was to do a world tour with Jennifer Lopez. And that sounds exciting. And it is, but I had just gotten married. So the timing was really weird. And it was really hard to be away from my husband for 7 months, but I kind of knew that I would do that tour and then we would have this nest egg and then we would start a company at the result. So I think our lesson is, of course we're wise around our money and we think probably too much about all of our purchases. We have a good handle on it, but also to invest in ourselves and not be afraid to do so. That's great. I mean, that's just such a powerful takeaway. Invest in yourself. All the happy hustlers, like, crypto's cool. The NFTs, went to zero. Like, I could have told you that was going to happen. But all this other stuff, like stock market, you see, like the best investment is always going to be you and skill acquisition, right? Like getting better. So I really like that you said that. Yeah. Let's talk about spirituality. I think spirituality is a really important topic, and, believing in something bigger than yourself, like having faith. I don't really care one God or another, what you believe in. I just think you should have faith. Do you have a spiritual practice that you can share with the happy hustlers? Yeah. You know what? It was a little more traditional when I was younger, but it's kind of just broadened, right? And I don't know exactly what it looks like, but my belief in something larger than myself, my belief that what I does matter, and my belief in just like being a good person to this planet and to the people around me and to my family, that I guess would be my spirituality and something that I work for every day. I think like you think, it's very important. It brings me a lot of peace and a lot of purpose. And in the morning, I do things like gratitude, and I always go through a list of the people in my life who I think might need something. And I ask for that for them, and at the end of the day, do that also for myself. Kind of, I guess you could call it like a prayer of, here's what I'm looking for. Here's what I hope for me. Here's what I hope for other people. Here's how I hope to evolve today. And I do that at least once every day, just taking time to really be intentional about why I'm here and who I want to support and who I want to become. So I guess if you call that a spiritual practice, we don't do church at this point in time, but I don't think you need to be spiritual.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think just taking that time, having stillness every single day in some way, focusing on your breath, being intentional with your thoughts. Yeah, that's awesome. Now, Autumn, I do want to put you through the rapid fire round, and we will wrap this interview up. This is basically where I ask you random things and you answer honestly, first thing that comes to mind. Are you ready?
I am so ready.
Okay. Favorite food? Go.
Oh, nachos. I know it's not the healthy, but if I'm just being...
Favorite movie?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, the first thing that came to my mind was Top Gun, because I just saw it. Of course, my son.
It's a great movie.
It's amazing. Favorite movie when I was younger was probably Clueless. Okay. That's it.
Nice. Favorite book?
Do you know how many books I read? Oh my gosh. One of the ones that I go back to for years, The Four Agreements. Yeah.
Yes. Love that. Great read. Favorite workout?
Oh, gosh, Tracy Anderson right now. But, I'm a dancer, so I do a dance party. But if you haven't heard of Tracy Anderson, she is a genius. Actually, I think she's hanging around in the Bozeman area. I think she just bought some property there. So
is she?
So if you have the opportunity, Tracy Anderson, male or female, I don't care. She's a genius. She will balance your body. She will wake up those accessory muscles. Just check it out.
Wow. Okay, cool. I like it. What's your spirit animal?
Oh, someone just told me this the other day because I hadn't ever taken the time to think about it for myself. Someone said an ant. Well, my mom said an ant. My sister said a cat because I'm sneaky and I don't like to be told what to do. But my mom thought an ant because I'm a total workhorse and my size doesn't equate to my kind of like powerful, presence or something. That's what my mom said. So I don't know, but
that is a first. I have yet to hear ant, and that is phenomenal. Best business advice.
Oh, find something you really care about or that has changed your life and then share it in a way that has integrity. That's it.
So good. 3 things you're most grateful for.
My son, my husband, my family, my health.
Love it. And if you had a billboard for the world to see with your last piece of content on it, what does that billboard read, Autumn?
2 of them come to mind. Like my last piece of content or what I wish everybody knew?
Either one.
Everything's going to be all right, or you're exactly where you need to be. That's it.
Those are good. I love it. Crush that rapid fire round, Autumn. You rock. And I just want to take a moment to acknowledge you for sharing your love, your light, your wisdom, and just for showing up and being brave, standing for something like what you're doing with Wild Pastures, what you're doing with Paleo Valley, what you're doing with Wild Pastures Burgers. Like, you're standing for something, and it's not always easy. And I just appreciate that about you and your husband and your whole company and your culture, and your support for the Happy Hustle, being involved in our events, and really appreciate you. So thank you.
Well, thank you for having me on the show. I love your mission, and I think you're doing a lot of great work in this world, and I'm just grateful to have been here.
Thank you, Autumn. I received that. And one last thing I want to ask you, the final question. What does happy hustling mean to you?
Oh, it means finding what lights you up, what excites you, and sharing that in a way that allows you to maintain that light, right? Not being so focused in any one direction that you get burdened or broken down because of the businesses that you're creating, right? I heard this quote the other day, and someone said, your employer will replace you if you ever die in 30 days, right? And but your family and the friends you love, your chosen family, whoever it is, they will always miss you. And so never build a life where you are taking for granted the people in it. So I think, just making sure that our business and our happy hustle includes balance and excitement and light and all those things.
Oh, crush that. Mic drop. Autumn Smith, y'all. Thanks for watching and listening. We are out. Peace and love. Boom. You crushed that.
Oh, thank you. You made it really